Okay, I'm going to show you how to go through the example on the linear programming project for Math 1090. So first of all, everything in red here are things that you are going to have to determine on your own in future problems. So you're going to read carefully through the problem and set up those constraints. So for example, we know that we have three different types of calculators that we are producing. So we're going to call them S, B, and G for scientific, business, and graphing calculators. We also need to think about some constraints for those particular variables. A lot of times you can't have decimals, like you can't produce 1.2 calculators. So we want to make sure that our variables, such as S, B, and G, are constrained to be integers, and we don't want to end up with negative numbers either. So we want to constrain them to be greater than or equal to 0 and integers. To maximize our profit, since we are making $6 for the scientific calculator, 13 for the business, and 20 for the graphing calculators, then our maximum profit is going to be derived from 6S plus 13B plus 20G. We also were given some constraints. For example, we have a limit of 90,000 circuit components. So with our first row there being how many circuit components per calculator, we want to take 5S plus 7B plus 10G is less than that maximum of 90,000 components. We also have labor hours constrained. So we're going to utilize that as well. And the cases are also constrained, okay, based on adding them up. So S plus B plus G is less than 9,000. So those are all derived from this information right in the center there. Okay, once you've got those set up, we're going to, once I've got my solver downloaded, I am going to use the solver to figure out how many of each calculator to produce in order to maximize my profit. So I like to go to my optimization function, which is my maximizing, and go to data and then hit the solver. So at this point, we need to put in the objective function. That will be that green colored cell. By changing my variables, I'm going to select here each of the blue, light blue variables. So we're selecting the variables. Okay, so now let's add our constraints. So the constraints that aren't written that we had to determine on our own was that the scientific calculators are greater than 0 and an integer. So I'm going to add, and then I'm going to highlight my scientific calculator cell. And then for the greater than, I need to change it to greater than or equal to 0. Add my second constraint. Again, select that same cell, and then this time I'm going to select int for integer. Okay, let's do the same for the business calculator. So I'm going to select the business calculator cell, and that also needs to be greater than or equal to 0, and an integer. Graphing calculators. Okay, at this point you can see that I've got those three variables constrained to be integers and greater than or equal to 0. Now we need to add our constraints formulas regarding the circuit components, the labor hours, and the cases. So to do this, I'm going to close this for a moment. I need to put in the variable in relationship to the cells in those orange areas. So I'm going to put equal to, and then the left side of the constraint is 5s plus 7b plus 10g. Well, I'm going to put 5 times, and instead of s, I'm going to put the location of my S variable. In this case, that's C11 plus 7 times my B cell plus 10 times by G. Okay. That's currently 0 because I have nothing in my S, B, and G, and we're going to have the solver actually put those inputs in. I do want it to be less than or equal to, and then 90,000. Let's do the same for the second orange cell. So I'm going to put equal to, the left-hand side is S, again, location of S cell-wise, plus 3 times the location of your B, and then plus 4 times the cell G. Okay, and that's going to be less than 30,000. And then I'm going to put, for my cases, add those cells together. So equals, and then add the 3 cells together. And that needs to be less than 90, or excuse me, 9,000. Okay, let's go back to our solver and add those 3 constraints. So what I want to do is highlight that first orange cell. Notice that I've got the less than defaulted, less than or equal to, and then the right side is going to be 90,000, or you could type 90,000, or because I already have it in a cell, I'm going to put the cell F20. Let's add the second one. So the second orange cell is less than or equal to the right-hand side of the constraint. And lastly, that darker orange is less than or equal to 9,000. And now I can see I've got those 3 highlighted constraints. One more area that I missed was putting in my optimization function. So within my green cell, I'm going to write equal to, and then put in that optimization, 6 times by the location of S, plus 13 times B, and then plus 20 times G. Okay, let's go back to that solver. Hit solve. We're going to keep the solver solution. And now we can see how many of each particular calculator I need to create, how many components I will use, how many labor hours I'll use, and how many cases will be used. And you can go to the solved and make sure that you came up with those same answers, which it looks like we've got those same answers. I hope that helps.